Hello everyone. Okay, today we are going to use the same circuit that we used in the previous lesson, and you can see that I have not connected any resistance over here, so this is going to be difficult for us now. Okay? So let us see how things are working. So one end of the switch is connected to the ground, and the other is definitely giving a low when I press the switch. Okay, when I press the switch. Otherwise, so see what is going to happen if I start the simulation, and when I press the switch, so nothing is happening. Let us check the code. Nothing is happening. Let's see the serial monitor. What is it displaying? It's displaying a 0. So see, it was displaying a 0 earlier also when the press button was not pressed. And when it is pressed, it has to display a 0 because it is now connected to the ground. Right, disconnected to the ground. So it is always giving a 0. So when it is always giving a 0 to the Arduino, that is a low, the LED is always going to be low. How did we go about solving this problem? We actually put a resistor here. Okay, we put a resistor here, and when we start the simulation, yes, it is on right now, and when I press the switch, it becomes on. This is how we solve the problem. But we can solve this problem even without the resistor. This particular resistor that we put here is actually called as a pull-up resistor. Pull-up resistor. It actually pulls up the voltage. If there is nothing coming onto that particular pin, it actually pulls up the voltage. So that means it gives a high automatically. If there's nothing, I'm not sending anything to the pin. So in fact, the Arduino system itself has a resistor inbuilt into the system, onto this board, which is called as a pull-up resistor. And I need to write some code to work on that pull-up resistor. So how do we do that? What we do is, in the pin mode, I just write input underscore pull-up. What does this mean now? This means this means this means a switch pin uh, gets a high when undetermined. So that means when it cannot determine whether the switch pin should get a high or a low, it automatically gets a high. Let's see how things work when I start the simulation. It gets a high. I have not pressed the switch. It gets a high. Why is it getting a high now? Is because in the code I have specified that switch pin is actually an input pull-up pin. Input pull-up actually means if it is undetermined, whether it is getting a high or a low, it automatically gets a high. So if I press the switch, it gets a low. It automatically gets a low. Why? Because these two pins get connected and it automatically gets grounded and it becomes a low. But when I have not pressed the switch, it gets a high automatically. So don't you think this becomes a kind of a situation where this is push to off kind of a thing? Alright, in the previous lesson, we actually created a push to off kind of a situation. So this is push to off. So when I press it off, thus the LED gets off. How do we go about reversing this now? You understand that in the previous one, we actually changed the circuit over here. But how do I change the coding now? In this coding, there is nothing called as pull down. So there is nothing called as pull down. So how do we go about changing the situation? So we just use an if else to do that, right? So what we do is we check if var is equal to high. If var is equal to high, we send a low to the LED. Reverse कर दिया ना हमने. So if var is high, we send a low to the LED. And if var is low, we send a high to the LED. So how do we go about this? We do this else, and over here we just give the same command. We write it is high, send a low to this, and reverse this on the else side. We send a high to this. So this means if var gets a high, the LED gets a low. If var gets a low, the LED gets a high. So it reverses it, and it becomes a push to on kind of a situation now. Let's see now. LED is off. I have not switched on the switch. I have not pressed the switch, so LED is off. So when I switch it on, when I press, the LED gets on. It becomes reversed now. Now you have seen now using input pull-up, I have reversed it. Now it has become a press to on kind of a situation. By default, input pull-up is actually the reverse. Okay, it's actually the reverse. So it becomes push to low. Okay, I hope this lesson is clear to you. You can rewind and replay this again and again and to figure out what is actually happening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.